For this video, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison with the original Pac-Man motherboard versus the Icade 60-in-1. And for this comparison, we will be using the 5th key pattern. Here's a little chart I created to keep track of which patterns we use throughout the keys. You can see the 1st through the 4th key, we're going to use the same pattern, the apple pattern that we were using. But then when we get to the 5th key, we're going to use the pattern, amazingly, called the 5th key pattern. And then for the 6th key, we're going to go back to the apple pattern for the last time, and then on to the 7th and 8th key, where we're going to use the 5th key pattern 2 more times, and then finally to the 9th key, where we're going to use the stacked pattern, and that's the pattern that's going to take us all the way to the kill screen. But for this video, we're just going to focus on the 5th key pattern. So the beginning of the 5th key pattern starts out exactly like the apple pattern. I'm going to pause it here for a brief second. We'll check out our timing here, and you can see we're pretty close. If anything, the Icade might be running just a little bit behind. I find that it normally does, but again, with all the patterns that I picked, some small timing differences, either if it was due to my timing or the emulator's timing, these patterns still hold up and work well. So as I mentioned before, the 5th key pattern starts out exactly like the apple pattern. We're going to go down, we're going to grab these 2 pellets there. You'll see on the original I missed the one, and just as with the apple pattern, that's not going to make a difference in the outcome. So we're going to continue on up here, go up and around, come down, grab the fruit, and I'm going to pause here for a slight second. So this is the point at which the pattern changes. In the apple pattern, we would usually head up, but in the 5th key pattern, we're going to head down. And the reason we're going to head down is we're going to try to get all 3 of the ghosts to chase us into the tunnel. And when we head down, we're specifically going to look at Inky, who's going to either be in the bottom right-hand corner or he might be a little bit off to the left. But either way, we're going to go towards him. In this case, in both cases, we're going to go straight down until we nearly hit Inky, and then we're going to do a U-turn and go straight back up and then take a right turn into the tunnel, and hopefully 3 of the ghosts follow into the tunnel. Let's see what happens on both versions. So we're going to watch the original on the left. I'm going to see I'm going to go down, and I'm going to get to right about here. You can go maybe a frame or 2 further, but generally speaking, that's the spot where you're going to want to make the U-turn. Inky, in some cases, is a little bit closer. In this case, he seems to be pretty far away. And if you look at the Icade, Inky's a lot further, but I'm going to continue on to about that same spot and make the same U-turn. And actually, in the Icade, I believe all 3 ghosts are going to follow me into the tunnel. So we'll watch here. The original, we're going to head up. We're going to make the turn, and it only looks like Blinky and Inky are going to follow me into the tunnel. And on the other one, everybody but Clyde is going to follow me into the tunnel. But either way, we stick with the pattern. So on the left, notice we're going to go down, and we're going to go around this corner and grab the energizer, or the power pellet, whatever you may call it. And you can see the ghosts are going to reverse back into the tunnel. On the left, both ghosts, even Blinky, who was kind of down, are going to reverse back in the tunnel. And on the right, all 3 ghosts are kind of stacked up, and they're going to run back through the tunnel. So if we're watching on the left, I'm going to clear the remaining pellets here. Clyde's not going to come up and get us ever. And I'm going to turn around, and then we're going to go up here, and I'm going to briefly turn left and then back to the right so I can pause. And the reason I'm pausing is I'm going to wait for the ghosts to get as close as they can, and then I'm going to head for the tunnel again. The goal is to try to get as many ghosts to chase me in there as possible. So you see on the right, the original 2 that followed me in the tunnel. are going to chase me in there. And on the left, that same group of 3 is going to chase me in the tunnel again. Now we're going to come out the other side. If you look on the original, we're going to go down. And we're going to get the power pellet again. And you'll notice the ghosts will then reverse back into the tunnel, keeping the Pac-Man safe. But on the left and the original, I'm going to have to finish the board by grabbing that one dot that I missed, but it's still not going to affect the pattern. And now we go ahead and finish out the same way. And you'll notice we can complete the board. And that noise was a stack of 3/4. I'd keep 3/4 on the top of the Pac-Man cocktail machine just to keep track of the pattern I was using, because you would use the 5th key pattern, then the apple, and then 2 5th keys. And if you look at the bottom of the board, you run out of space, and at some point you look down and there's all keys and you don't remember if it's the last 5th key pattern or you're going to go into the final pattern, the stack pattern. So I just use the quarters to help keep track of which board I passed. So the next pattern we're going to use is the apple pattern. We're going to use the apple pattern for the last time here. The previous video shows how exactly to do the apple pattern. But I noticed this one in particular, that's in between the 5th key patterns, is the hardest one to execute. For some reason, if the timing is just slightly off, it makes the ending a little bit harder. And you'll see in this case, both endings, I have to kind of use the alternate endings to finish out the pattern. But so this is one when you're doing the last apple pattern. Just pay a little extra attention to how you're cornering. Otherwise, you're going to make the ending a little bit harder. As you see here on both games, I made it more difficult than it needed to be to finish out the board. So timing was slightly off. Now on to the second 5th key pattern. So we're going to do the 5th key pattern again. And again, it starts out just like the apple pattern that we just did. Come out down and around, grab the 2 pellets. And in this example, my timing was pretty even on the original and the Icade. Pause it to show it, but it's pretty spot on. So we're starting here just like the apple pattern, and then after we grab the key, this is where it changes. We get the ghost to chase us into the tunnel. We're going to go back into the tunnel. We're going to pause here, let him chase us into the tunnel again. We're going to back up again, and then we go and finish out the board. I find the 5th key pattern, once you get used to it, is actually easier than some of the later apple patterns. So this is the last time we'll be using the 5th key pattern, and just like the last board, there's all keys at the bottom. So to keep track, that's why I have a little stack of quarters to remind me that this is the last time I'm going to use it. And in both cases here, my timing seems to be a little bit off. You can see that the Icade is running pretty far behind the original. But again, with all these patterns, what I liked about the patterns I chose, that even if my timing was off or the system was off, that the patterns still work. So I'm going to pause here for a second and discuss what we're going to do. As we discussed earlier in the video, you'll see that Inky is on the bottom right on the Icade, but he's on the bottom left on the original. So we're going to go down, and we're always going to go towards Inky. So in the Icade case on the right, we're going to go straight down and get about as close as we can to him and then make our U-turn. But in the left case, we're going to want to turn around that corner and go to the left towards Inky before we make our U-turn and go back up, because we want to get him to follow us into the tunnel. So we'll see on the left, we're going to make a move towards the left to try to get Inky and the other ghosts to follow us in the tunnel, and you'll see that we were unsuccessful. But on the right, we're doing the pattern as the normal timing usually does, and you're going to see that in that case 3 ghosts follow us in the tunnel. But on the left, it's only Blinky, and you'll see as we come out of the tunnel, it looks like we're going to run into a problem with one of the ghosts here. So I take a quick U-turn, go back in the tunnel, get him to pass by, and then head out. And on the left side, I kind of free play a little bit here, but I generally try to stick to the pattern as much as I can unless there's a problem, and then I take a different route. So on the right, it's going to be how we normally do it. You're going to see the 3 ghosts are going to back up into the tunnel. But on the left, we're going to still run the pattern. Everything seems to be going normal. I'm going to come up. We're going to go around here, and in both cases we're going to clear out the remainder of these dots. But if you look on the left, I'm supposed to go up and pause up there, but there's a ghost, so I just carry on to the left and go up through the tunnel, and then just try to see how many ghosts chase and kind of free play from here. But the right is more how it's supposed to happen, where I wait and get 3 ghosts to chase me in the tunnel. So kind of have to improvise here on the left, and we'll let it play out. So if we're watching the left, we're kind of coming around, and we run into a bit of a problem here. Scramble, work our way out, grab the dot, and hit the tunnel. Usually a good spot if you're scrambling is to go through the tunnel and finish off the board. So that's the last of the 5th key patterns. Now we go into our final pattern, the stacked pattern. I'm going to save that for another video, but I'll let this run out. You'll notice the stack pattern is much different. We start out moving to the right, and it's a fairly easy pattern to complete. The challenging part is you have to do it about 236 times to get to the final kill screen. So cornering perfectly that long is the most challenging part. A lot of people that play Pac-Man call it the desert. That's the part that takes, 3.5 hours to run through it to get to that final kill screen. It took me quite some time to learn the pattern and be able to do it that long, but we'll show that on a different video. Thanks for watching.